Hey, you want to hear some poems about ducks?
No.
Nah.
Nope.
Maybe. Howdy folks, Grok the DuckFarmer here, and I'm on the FTOG Quantus server, hanging out here with Mrs. the DuckFarmer.
Howdy folks.
Yay! And she's there in the sound booth again because this is Cooking with the DuckFarmers.
I'll have you know I've learned my lesson.
What lesson is that?
I've stuck a chalk in the door so you can't lock me in here again.
It was completely and totally unintentional.
I had to pick the lock.
It was good for you. Now you know how to pick a lock.
I had to pee.
Well, I think that's too much information. Let's go on to the recipes, because it's Cooking with the DuckFarmers. Yay is what it is. Yay! Cooking with the DuckFarmers. So today we are going to go with a tried and true wonderful recipe. And let's come over here and take a look at what this says. Baked mac and cheese. So you've had the mac and cheese. You've had that, that blue box where you make it and it takes all of 15 minutes, and then you sit down and you go because it's tasty. It's like crack in a box.
Pretty much.
And as good as that is, baked mac and cheese is better.
It's like uber crack.
Oh, it is so much better. So this is what we're going to show you. And it's easy. This is really easy. It's not difficult at all.
It takes more time than boxed mac and cheese, but a lot of good things take a little more time and they're worth it.
Yes, this is definitely worth it. So if we go ahead and take a look, we've got some water here on the stove. Because we first are going to start with the pasta. So 1.5 cups of pasta, some water, and we're talking about, at least 2-3 quarts, maybe a gallon, and some salt. Because this is the only chance that you're going to have to put some flavor into the pasta. And salt is the #1 seasoning, so that's the time to do it. The water should taste salty, like seawater, not like a salt brick. So, don't do that. Pasta, the elbow macaroni is the #1 favorite for mac and cheese. That's hence macaroni. But it doesn't have to be that pasta, right?
No, you can use a lot of different types. You'll want to use, for the most part, a small-shaped pasta. Things like shell shapes.
I like shell shapes.
Yeah, those are good. Macaroni, there's orecchiette, which are supposed to be shaped like little ears. A whole bunch of different types of what they usually call salad pasta. They're small, they have holes in them so that they can better hold the delicious cheese sauce you're going to make.
Fusilli, the little spirally
fusilli
things.
would work.
That works too. The tighter, the more it's going to hold onto the sauce. Spaghetti, I would eat mac and cheese made with spaghetti, but it's not going to hold.
Except it would be spaghetti and cheese, right?
Yeah, it would be spaghetti and cheese, but I would eat it with the spaghetti if that's the only pasta I had, but it won't hold the sauce like the macaroni does. Or
frankly, if
others.
I had a long pasta like spaghetti or linguine, and I also had some cauliflower in the fridge, I'd probably make cauliflower cheese first.
Yeah.
Because it tastes really good, and it's very similar to make cauliflower cheese, but that's a whole different Cooking with the DuckFarmers, so let's not do that.
Yes, we're not going to talk about that. So 1.5 cup of whatever type of pasta you go with, heat up the water, throw in the salt, toss in the pasta.
Yeah, wait until it comes to a full boil.
Yes, wait for the full boil, then toss in the pasta all at once, and give it a good stirring because you want to make sure that none of them stick together, because then you get pasta logs, and it's crunchy and it's nasty and it's disgusting.
It just doesn't work.
You don't want to do that.
You want what they often refer to as, you want pasta that can swim. In other words, that moves freely in the water. So that way, as it expands, it will have room.
Yep. Now, you don't want to cook the pasta 100% cooked.
Well, you want it just a little bit to the point where it's al dente, because you're going to be putting this into a hot oven, which means it's going to cook a little bit more. And if you already have it to the point where, like they used to say, kissed al dente goodbye at the bus station, it's going to taste pretty awful. It'll be goopy. You don't want goopy mac and cheese. It's not good.
Al dente is the Italian for to the teeth or something like
that.
To the
bite.
To the bite. It gives you a little bit of resistance as you bite into it, and so you're sampling the pasta as it's cooking, and you wait for it to have, it's cooked through, but there's a little bit of resistance still. Pull it out and drain it real quick at that point.
Most types of boxed pasta will tell you about how long a variable amount that you should be cooking the pasta. If you're right at sea level, cook it at the smallest amount of time. And if you are going to be up, say, above 5,000 feet or so, you want it for at least the longest amount of time, maybe a little longer, so that it will cook through.
I pretty much ignore the time and just taste it. You know, I'll look at the time. It says, 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'll take a look at it when it gets close to 8. I'm starting to pull it out and look at it and taste a little bit and go, yeah, way too crunchy. Okay, this is getting softer. Yes, this is al dente, perfect. Turn it off, try it. And
right, but my point is, if you haven't cooked pasta before, you're not sure how long,
go with
the box
time.
should tell you.
Yes. And then chew it to make sure it's got the right texture. Anyway, so that's your pasta. You cook it up, and you're going to be draining that and let that sit on the side. Now, while this is cooking up, it's time to make the cheese sauce. So I've got some of the stuff that we got. Oh, here's the pasta. So give me the pasta, and we'll toss that into the pot. Patooey. Something like that. Yes, that's exactly how pasta works. Anyway, let's go take a look at the cheese sauce. The cheese sauce is 3 tablespoons of butter and 3 tablespoons of flour, and in this order, you put in the butter into a skillet. Oh, hey, skillet.
We need a skillet. Hey!
We need a skillet here. I'm going to grab all these items here. The
sure
bacon,
hope the pasta enjoys being dead.
The pasta is all cooked. Let's see, one more. Here we go. Let's put that... Oh, it's not quite... There we go. Put it like this, and... Skillet! Haha, skillet!
Yay!
All right, so with the skillet, go ahead and take your butter and melt that. So medium heat. It doesn't need to be, super flamingly hot, but medium high is fine. The butter should start bubbling as it's cooking up, and then dump in the flour, and you need a whisk. A real good flat whisk, so it's got lots of contact to the pan, which means this is not a Teflon pan or a non-stick pan. This has got to be a metal one.
If you do this in a Teflon pan, you're not going to have Teflon for very long.
Yes.
It can handle quite a bit, but it doesn't usually handle being scraped with a metal object of any kind.
Yeah, so a metal pan, you've got the butter melted, you throw in the flour, and you whisk it together. That forms what is known as a roux. It's R-O-U-X.
Yes.
It's French.
Yes.
And the roux is what's going to thicken up the sauce. But you want to cook the butter and the flour together, because otherwise the flour would have a raw flour taste in the sauce. And
it just doesn't taste very good.
So you just keep it on the medium heat and just keep stirring it. It should really come together into a nice thin...
Like a thin paste almost.
Yeah, a thin paste.
What you're looking for is something that looks kind of blonde. There are certain types of roux that you cook for a long time, and they can turn very dark brown, and they have all kinds of wonderful flavors that develop. But for this particular sauce, you're going to keep it fairly blonde. You only really want to cook it for a few minutes until you can barely see it starting to turn a slightly darker color. But you don't want it to be too dark. You just want it to be blonde for this.
Yep. So once you've got the roux formed, and it's just turning blonde, then we add in 2 cups of milk, not skimmed.
No.
1%, 2%, 3% more, 5%.
We've actually done it with everything from 2% all the way up to half and half, which, by the way, is incredibly rich and delicious, but you don't want to eat it every day or it'll kill you.
Yes. But you need the fat, because we're taking a oil and water mixture and bringing it together. And so the oil is your cheese, it's oily, and the milk is your water. They won't mix unless you've got something to help. The milk solids in the milk, the little bit of milk fat, that will help everything to mix, as well as the butter flour combination. That will also help too.
Of course.
So, but take the milk, and I don't dump milk in all at once. I'll do like a third or a half. Stir.
Yeah, you really need to stir fast, because when you put in a little bit of the milk as a ratio of this, you will find that butter flour roux starts to really thicken it up fast.
Yeah. And
that's where you end up getting lumps. So you want to add the milk smoothly. You may need to do a lot of stirring to get it all incorporated, but keep going. If you have some lumps, you can smooth them out. But generally speaking, if you add the milk steadily, you will end up with a good sauce.
Yeah, but rather than going glump, pour it in.
As you stir.
Yeah, as you stir. And you're stirring really, really quickly. You'll also want to add in about a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper. That gives it some good flavor. Now, the recipe for this is down in the description, but we've made a few modifications.
Yeah.
And tell us about that, Mrs.
Well,
DuckFarmer.
the first time I make a new recipe, I try to make it as much by the book as I can so I can see what it's like, just unaltered. And from there, I start doing mad science. So the first time I made this, it was good.
Yep.
But even with sharp cheddar, it didn't have the right amount of flavor as far as I was concerned. So I made some alterations to the sauce that I've made in a couple of bechamel or cheese sauces before, which is that right around the time that the butter, flour, and milk are just starting to thicken up, you can kind of tell because the bubbles get a little bit more poppy, the sound gets a little different as it starts to thicken. I added about a teaspoon or so of Dijon mustard.
Yep.
You can use Grey Poupon or you can do something else, whatever trips your trigger. And I also added a dash or two of nutmeg because nutmeg goes really well in most cheese sauces. It brings out the flavor of the cheese and the other things that you've put into it really well. So I've started doing that, and it's really made this mac and cheese so much better.
Oh yeah, it is really good, and I'm a big fan of the fresh nutmeg because I'm a food snob, and so no, I'll grate the nutmeg fresh, or I'll just say, hey, you go do it for me.
I'd rather not, thank you.
So the butter, flour, milk, the salt, pepper, the Dijon, if you're going to do that with the nutmeg, you keep that over the heat. And again, this is a medium heat. We're not boiling the milk because it'll curdle and you'll get lumpy.
Yeah, it'll seize up and be disgusting.
It's disgusting. No, you just want it to get warm, and there will be a few little bubbles popping up, which is fine.
Yes.
And that will, as you're stirring, you'll feel that it's getting thicker.
Yep. And you'll also be able to hear that it's getting thicker if you're listening to it, because the bubbles go from being kind of light, kind of like the sound that you hear with boiling water, to more thick and, for lack of a better term, almost ploppy sounding. That's a sign that the roux is thickening up the sauce.
Yeah.
When you get to that point, you want to take it off the heat. Because what you're going to do next, when you add the cheese in, you don't want it to be over the heat, or the addition of cheese can actually, again, seize up your sauce.
Yeah,
so either pull it off the heat or turn the heat off.
I would pull it off the heat, yeah.
Either one works.
There's the heat on the stove still carrying on.
Right.
But add in the cheese, the 2 cups of cheese.
Maybe a handful at a time.
Yeah, and then stir it up so that it gets a chance to start to melt in, then add another handful and stir it up.
Right.
The recipe calls for doing half and half sharp cheddar, because the sharper the better, the more flavor it has. And it also calls for Swiss for the other half, which is not bad, but any good melting cheese would work well. The sharp cheddar gives flavor, and the melting cheese helps give a nice consistency. So Havarti,
Gouda is another one
is a
that's
good one.
Tasty.
Velveeta actually is really good in this.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are really snobby about Velveeta, and frankly, I'm kind of one of them. But there are certain things that Velveeta is good for, and when it comes to cheese sauces, Velveeta, at least partial Velveeta, it can really shine. And that's what it was designed for. It was designed to be a melting cheese. So you can add, I would say, up to half of the cheese in this can be Velveeta if you want it to be. Don't make it all Velveeta, though, because it doesn't taste very good.
No.
It melts great, but it needs another cheese, preferably a sharp cheddar, to really make it delicious.
Yep. So the mixture of the sharp, we've done it with, we've got a Colby Jack combo that we'll add in there too. All of those work really well to melt and have flavor as well.
Yeah, and if you want to add additional flavor, you can add probably not more than, say, a quarter of the total amount of cheese, probably a whole lot less than that, actually. You can add a very flavorful cheese like, say, Parmesan or Reggiano.
Yeah, those are really good, but they don't melt nearly as well.
They don't melt well, so you need to have a good melting cheese along with it.
If I were to do the Parmesan, I would get it as finely grated as possible.
Yes.
So that it has any chance to melt with that.
I would get Grok to be my slave and say, slave, grate us up some Parmesan. It will be good.
That's why we have a microplaner, so we can
and then he'd be saying, but I don't want to. And I'd be saying, mac and cheese. And he'd be going, right, hum-de-dum-de-dum.
Hey, mac and cheese.
It works great.
So with this, you would take it, mix the pasta that by now has been cooked and drained, dump the pasta together, stir it all in with the sauce.
Oh, wait, there's something I need to mention.
What?
Do not rinse your pasta.
Oh, yes.
There are certain types of pasta dishes, like if you're going to make a pasta salad, you might rinse your pasta. Certain types of Japanese noodles are best rinsed. Do not rinse your pasta because you need a certain amount of that stickiness to make the sauce really adhere properly.
Yep. So you drain it and, give it a good shake.
Give
in
it a
your
really
colander,
good shake before you add
out.
it in to make sure that you've gotten all the water out, and also that if it has started to stick to itself at all, that'll loosen
Breaking
it up.
Yep. But anyway, so the pasta and the cheese sauce now come together, stir, so they're all nicely coated. And then you want to put that into a casserole dish. An 8x8 fits this very nicely. And with an 8x8, it typically takes about 40 minutes or so in the oven. If you've got a larger dish that's going to be, the mac is going to be a lot thinner on it, then maybe half the time. Just keep an eye on it. Because what you're looking for is it to be bubbling.
If you look at the original recipe poster said that she used a cast iron skillet and it took only about 25 minutes because, of course, the cast iron retains heat and radiates it up through the food a lot faster. But if you've just got a regular, like a glass casserole dish, it's going to take you about 40 minutes, maybe 45.
Now, this is good. You cook this and you serve it and the people go, this is yummy. But this isn't enough.
No.
Oh, no. We've got to send this over the top.
Aye.
To make this really good, you want to put a layer of crumbs on top of the mac before you throw it into the oven.
Because that adds the element of crunchy.
Oh yeah, crunchy and more flavors. So you could go with just plain breadcrumbs that you get out of the pantry, and those are okay. Probably you wouldn't need to add any butter. Quite often with breadcrumbs, you'd add some butter so it has a chance to broil.
It'll crunch up a bit
and
more.
crunch up a bit more. There's enough fat in the mac and cheese that you don't need that here.
No.
But just regular plain breadcrumbs would be good. If you want to give it an Italian flavor, you can do Italian breadcrumbs because it comes with several spices in there, and that will make it a more herby sort of mac and cheese, which is also still very good.
Yeah.
My favorite is Japanese breadcrumbs. Those are the panko there, because the panko, there's some super secret thing. I think they've got samurais there with swords going choppity to make it really big shards that's extra crunchy when it cooks up. And so a whole bunch of panko in there.
Panko is Japanese for little bread.
Yeah. And because the first time we did it, we said, okay, let's throw in some breadcrumbs. And we had the panko, and I said, oh, that was pretty good. But it needed more. So don't be afraid to pile on lots.
Well, I mean, you don't want to have like a 3-inch topping of panko. I think that's too much. I know you disagree with me, but I think that's too much.
About right.
Oh,
but
gosh.
No, you want enough that you can see a solid layer of breadcrumbs. You don't really want to see cheese sauce through the breadcrumbs. I want a good solid layer.
Yeah.
So there's
not
plenty
3
of
inches though. That's kind of an overkill.
Well, yeah, but 2.5.
Gosh. All right.
And then the other flavor ingredient that really sends this over the edge is bacon. Now, you're not cooking the bacon in the mac and cheese.
No, because then you got wiggly bacon. And no offense to our friends in the UK, but wiggly bacon is the tool of the devil, so don't do that.
Well, no, I was saying is that you want to make sure that the bacon is cooked first before you do anything in this dish.
Casserole dishes, of which baked mac and cheese is an example, almost always need to have certain foods in them cooked all the way before they go in. You're essentially heating it up, letting the flavors marry, but you don't necessarily want to, for instance, I made a casserole dish tonight with some asparagus in it. I had to cook the asparagus first before it went in the dish, or it would have still been crunchy when it came out.
Yeah, and as it was a nice fresh flavor. So
and you
really
want
good.
bacon to be crunchy in this, but you don't want it to be raw. And if you just dice it up as is and throw it into a casserole, it's not going to be cooked.
No. So
trichinosis is not fun.
No. So just like I explained with the Mexican breakfast and the last cooking with the DuckFarmers, I take my bacon, I freeze it, and then I slice off 1/4-inch thick across the grain so that it comes pre-crumbled. So I'll do 3 or 4 slices of that for this or more, and fry it up into a frying pan so it's good and crisp. And then here's where Mrs. the DuckFarmer and I disagreeing. If you want bacon to be still very crunchy, you can put it either above or below the panko layer, the breadcrumb layer, and it'll be just fine. It'll have a good crunch still. If you like your bacon to be a little bit softer, then you put it in with the mac and cheese and mix it around.
I don't agree with that, just because I like the crunchiness of the bacon. I like it to be crispy, which is why if I were to do this, I would sprinkle it on top as I serve it.
Yeah.
So that you still have the crispiness of the bacon. It mixes well with the flavors, but it isn't completely drowned in the mac and cheese. It doesn't get limp and wiggly.
Yeah. Well, it won't get limp and wiggly because you fried it good.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you then drown it in cheese sauce, it'll
soften up some.
quite a bit.
Now, if you've got people that too crunchy bacon is not their thing, then throw it into the mac and swirl it around, and it will soften up for that next 40 minutes in the oven.
Yeah.
But anyway, adding that bacon is fantastic. So through the miracle of modern television, let's grab out our baked mac and cheese. And here, I need to clear off my space here. Go away, frying pan. We don't need you. Instead, we're going to go ahead and put down the baked mac and cheese. Oh, isn't that looking good? We've got a brown glass of 8x8 pan here. And you can see where the breadcrumbs have browned up very nicely and some of the cheese is bubbled through. Yum. Okay, well, we'll convince you with a real picture here.
Yeah, believe me, it's better in real life.
So here's a real picture of the last time we made the baked macaroni and cheese with the bacon on top.
Oh.
And it is really good. I just think, inside would be okay too.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Whatever.
Because I'm right.
Ha.
Yep. And is it difficult to make? No, it's not difficult to make at all.
It does take some time.
It's going to take some time. It's going to take 10 to 15 minutes to do the pasta, the cheese sauce in about the same amount of time, and then you've got about 45 minutes in the oven. So we're talking about an hour. That's not a super quick meal, but
the 45 minutes, I mean, you can do all kinds of things with it. You don't have to just sit there twiddling your thumbs. You could go off and play Minecraft or chase the cat around or tell your wife how much you love her.
Oh, so much.
Oh, so much, because she's making you mac and cheese.
Oh, you betcha. But
you know it.
First, I'm going to go watch a Cooking with the DuckFarmers video.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
That
important.
seems fair. Okay.
Anyway, this has been Grok the Duck Farmer here with Mrs. the Duck Farmer. Yep, and we've been teaching you how to make baked macaroni cheese with Cooking with the Duck Farmers here on the FTOG Quantus server. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
I want me some now.
Oh, feel free.
Ooh. Yum, 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 yum.